What's up, everybody? This is Jimmy with Trading Decoded. It is March 4th, 2025, and another epic day in the market if you're a day trader. If you're holding long-term positions, sometimes these pullbacks can be painful, especially when we've got a bunch of strings of days of these in a row. However, for us day traders who are not holding long-term positions, these types of days that we've been seeing recently are beautiful, beautiful trade opportunities to make some really good, quick money. And that's what we're looking for. Before we get started, if you guys are interested in learning how I trade, if you can't be in our Discord community, or if you can, consider buying my book. It's right here. You can find it on Amazon. It's super, super helpful. And it lays out everything that we look for and answers all the questions as to why we take the trades that we do and what we're looking for in order to take those trades. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the charts and we'll go over what we did. It was a great day today. So into the open, we were putting in lower highs into the open. Okay, got a little sketchy here, but our put line on SPY was 579.75. We can get below that, we'd be looking for at least the orange line down because we were looking for this support right here. Okay, but we pay more attention to the Qs, at least I do. And I said, we're putting in lower highs leading into the open. I'll be prepared for puts. Our put line on the Qs was 493.44. We were looking for at least a move to the first blue line down, but as luck would have it, ADD was already dumping very hard and it brought us straight down to our first orange line, which I said to everybody, I'm really hoping we get through this put line and go straight to the orange line, which was support over here as well. Fortunately, that happened. That ended up producing a 29.8% win for me and for a bunch of other people. Things were exceptionally expensive today, like 3 times the cost of normal. But what was going on here that gave us the confidence to give this a try? Number one, SPY opened below the pink line, turned it into resistance for the first, I don't know, one candle right before market opened. The next candle stayed as resistance. The next candle stayed as resistance. Once we started to see wicks on the tops of these candles and seeing Qs and SPY at resistance at the same time, while also looking over here at ADD and watching it drop like a rock, well, all things are green lighted for go to play it down to the next support. Sometimes we get a little more than the next support. If you waited for a line breach to the next line, that was a full dollar move, and it happened literally in, well, about a minute and a half. Good money to be made there. That was the one and only trade I took for the day. Now, as we were pulling back, there was a couple of things going on here. Guys, ADD printing a couple of green candles in a row. SPY, we're less worried about SPY, although we said about the Qs, if they break this trend line and take out resistance here, I'm hoping for it to head up at least to our call line. As this thing started printing, we breached the call line, and again, to the upside, we weren't looking for a huge move up. We were hopefully going from one line to the next. Again, only about a 40-cent move, a little more than, if you got in when we breached the line. But if you got in when we saw the opportunity to consider it, again, confluence. We want ADD moving in our direction, we want SPY moving in our direction, and we want the Qs moving in our direction, and we want to be breaking the trend line. We want to take out resistance. Then we want to know where the next resistance is so that we can capture the space between the first resistance and the next resistance. That is how we trade, okay? Now, I didn't put a circle here for whatever reason, but once we got up to the line we were hoping for, Qs and SPY were hitting a resistance at the same time, i.e. our first target above our call line, SPY touching the pink line, a known resistance for it. That right there probably paid more than 30% because the size difference in the move was drastically better. Then we hit resistance on both charts, started to move down. Now, I'm not looking for puts here simply because ADD was still trending up at the time. However, we put in a lower high and we break support here. Told everybody on the way back down, said, guys, now ADD is in our favor. SPY's coming off of lower highs. If we can get through this support level, again, would be the put line if you're playing conservative. We're looking for the same exact target that we were the first time we hit. So once again, it's identical move if you waited for the breach of the line and you respected the same support. Guys, this was a strong support and it held. until it didn't. Then we pulled back. So Qs was seemingly in a channel for a little while SPY was trending down. The reason SPY was able to continue to trend down, even though the Qs really weren't, was because ADD was pulling SPY down. So every time ADD keeps dropping lower, if Qs start moving sideways or chugging sideways or drop, then SPY still continues to move down. And when Qs comes down, SPY goes even faster. So we pulled back to resistance here. Okay, it's a line of resistance right here on Qs and SPY coming off of a lower high on SPY. ADD started to print red again. Same thing, guys. This looks like a good entry for puts. I'd be looking to make this thing right back down to the same support we've already tested 2-3 times prior to. Okay, I wouldn't suggest holding through those because of how strong and violently we reacted each time we touched it. And this is where things got fun. We bounced off. Did we make it back up to the resistance we just came from? We did not, which makes this again a lower high situation. Lower highs coupled with ADD trending down pretty aggressively means we're more likely to break this support. And we had said after the third time of touching it, guys, that's a pretty strong support. The best part about these supports is that the strong ones tend to break more violently if and when they do. So when you couple the lower high with the fact that SPY is coming off lower highs, with the fact that ADD is trending down, with the fact that everything in the top 10 was red, all signs point to maybe take the risk. That's your money. You do what you want. Okay? For me, that's a pretty golden setup. Now, as I stated just a minute ago, I took one trade today, made very good money in a short period of time. But these trades present themselves often. The setups that we're looking for work on all of these trades. Okay? Now, what are we looking for here? We are looking for this to not only break the support that we've been going to, but we're hoping to get down to at least the next support. Okay? The next support down. And I want to tell you something, because if you didn't get out here, because you got in up here off the lower high and you were expecting support to fail, I had told people as well, guys, Nvidia is coming down to a support line. Now, I don't watch Nvidia very often, but Nvidia seemed to have a bit of an influence on Qs today. Normally, I don't pay much attention to Nvidia at all, but I saw that Nvidia was doing very well in the beginning, pulling back, getting back up to resistance, pulling back, and once it started to break some of its supports, I found a support on Nvidia at 111.93. Now, I mentioned this right around 10 o'clock, okay? Now, 10 o'clock is when we hit our next target low on this particular trade. It was a report candle as well. We don't like to hold through those, but some people don't care about that. However, I said to everybody, guys, if Nvidia gets below 111.98, I have a pretty good belief that it's going to drop to 110.20, okay? Now, I could show you a picture of the Nvidia chart in the video, which I'll do. And when you see, it's right here. This line here I had drawn right here at this support. And the next one down was the one we made in pre-market. And I said, guys, if we get through that, I could see Nvidia dropping $1.40, $1.50, $1.60 down to this line. And if that happens, I do believe that the Qs are going to continue down, likely to get to this orange dotted line next. Nvidia broke that level of resistance on this candle. Now, it's a little different because SPY never really came back to make this trade much at risk, okay? Even though Qs had a decent pullback, ADD kept dragging down, okay? So it kept SPY in check. So it got a little uncomfortable in a pullback here if you were paying attention to the Qs chart. SPY maintained resistance below a line of resistance, which we needed to stay below. And ultimately, Nvidia made it all the way down to that line, and this is where Qs were when we got there. Okay? So that ended up being a great trade to the downside, even better on SPY than it was on the Qs. So entry here, exit here. Nice move down. We went from essentially 575 all the way down to 572.60. Okay, that's a good move. That pays very well. We had a downtrend line. We broke the downtrend. I told everybody the way our rules are is if we get on the other side of the downtrend, puts come off the table, what gets us into calls? We want to take out resistance, and if as long as there's room to the next resistance to make money, then we take the risk that is that. Well, the resistance was on SPY, this orange line. On Qs, it was this orange line right here. So we got above that here. The next resistance on the Qs was all the way up here. That was what we were aiming for. This should be here. So we closed above resistance. We're looking for the next resistance. ADD was printing some green candles. Confluence happened to work on SPY as well. Sorry, this comes here. And that's what we're looking for. Then we got into an area of kind of some chop, things not looking so great. As we were nearing 12 o'clock, which is the time I get off the chart, we found some higher lows. And I know people today were interested in wanting to play puts because the market's bleeding. I mean, let's call it what it is. But there were some things going on under the hood that you shouldn't be ignoring. Number one, ADD had slowly started to rotate to the upside, if you look over here. Number two, we started to put in higher lows. Now, I wasn't suggesting that we should consider calls at this time, but what I did say was, guys, that's a higher low on Qs and a higher low on SPY. I wouldn't buy puts as we near this line of resistance this time. Now, you look back, and each time that resistance held pretty well, but this time is different. Why? Because higher lows. Higher lows are bad for puts, guys. This is something we teach all the time, and it works way more often than it doesn't. Now, some people use that as a reason to consider getting into calls, but again, the market's very heavy, so I'm way less aggressive on the call side. It's not a bias. It's just I want to be, a little bit more sure. All right. With that said, we put in yet another higher low. So now we're looking for, okay, if we get above this resistance, where is the next resistance we would be aiming for? And it's this line here is what we were looking for, 491.97. So we were looking to go from 491.92 or 22 to 491.97. If we can get above that, we should get that. And we did. Furthermore, if you didn't take it then, we said, hey, if ADD is still pushing up, we get a close above 491.97. We're looking for, and I said 493.83 because this is the next resistance up in line. So if we get above this resistance, the next one on the Qs is all the way up there. Well, as luck would have it, or as price action would work the way we like it to, ADD's pushing up. We get a close above that. Our stop loss was we needed to stay above 491.78 with candle closes. We never closed below that. We touched it several times, only to then move up and make it straight to where we rejected 493.89, where our profit target was. Another banger trade. Now, the reason this circle is here is because it was a pink line, is the stink line. You always want to consider the possibility of taking profits there. Now, when should we buy puts, Jimmy? Well, we break the trend line. Okay, do we jump into puts right then? No, we don't. We want to take out the most recent resist or support after that. We never did that, so we never got a reason to jump into puts again. We move back up. When would you do calls, Jimmy? Well, I would wait until we break this resistance and make sure we have room to go to the next resistance. Well, when did we break that resistance? And was ADD printing green? ADD was still trending up at the time. We got above that resistance here. We're looking for it to go to the next resistance up, which came from this guy. The next one up from here, again, if we close above it, we're looking for a move up to this guy. So just pay attention to these lines, guy. And by the way, all of these lines were drawn before the market opened this morning, 8:30 this morning. We did a live charting session. You can go back and watch that. For those of you who are in our room, you know what's going on. However, at this point, we had a pullback. I'm off the mic by now, by the way, guys. That's why there's no more arrows here. I want you to see, while we're trending up, pull back to support on SPY, right here, pull back to support on Qs, ADD is trending up and printing green. We would look at that as a good opportunity to buy into calls if you weren't always in, and we're looking for the next resistance up above this one, because this is also a higher low. Higher lows put more pressure on resistance. We're more likely to break them and head up to the next one. Where we rejected again, pulled back down to support, back up to resistance, support, resistance, support, broke support. And now we're just kind of flopping around. Guys, today was a fantastic day in our community. I think the last I checked, we had 11 or 12 reds and over 100 greens on the day. On a day like today, where contracts are extremely expensive, I expected things to not be so well. However, the chart did mostly what we would want and expect it to do. This had nothing to do with biases. It had nothing to do with anything other than understanding price action and price action doing what price action normally does. And we take advantage of those moves and we use that stuff to create confluence to give us higher chances of winning. Today was a fantastic day for day traders if you played the chart for what it was and for what it gave you. If you stayed out of the market when it looked like it was dangerous to be in it, you didn't get hurt. If you overtraded today, you might have hurt yourself, took away some of your profits that you had earned earlier. Don't overtrade, guys. Have a limit, not dollar-wise, but a limit, a number of trades you will take per day. For me, it's 3, but I do everything I can to minimize that to be 2 or less. I'd prefer to take 1 trade a day and be happy. Today was that day for me because I look at it as the market being a pool of sharks. I'm going to jump in it, and if I can get out unscathed with whatever I jumped in there to get, I'm not going back in there if I don't have to. All right? The market's the same way. It's a pool of sharks. The longer you swim in there, the more likely you are to get bit. All right, so guys, I'm trying to make these videos as impactful as I can. I'm trying to make them as helpful and as useful as I can by minimizing the amount of time that they take for you to watch. Please watch them in their entirety. I promise you it's helpful information. All right, so is the information in this book. You like what I did there? Please check it out, guys. It's got great reviews. It was very well written. It explains everything that we do and what we look for, okay? Also, if you got any good, useful information in this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Like for your support in that respect. And if you'd like to join our Discord community, well, we'd love to have you. There's a link down below. And that's pretty much it. We're going to leave it at that. So I hope you all had a great day in the market. Till tomorrow, I love you guys.